You trek across the windswept landscape. With the sun beating down on your backs, plates of armour heat till they burn bare skin. The low foliage tugs at your legs. 1,000 varieties of green leaf bunch, huddled together against the harsh conditions. 1 foot high scrub after 1 foot high scrub. Half of them with foul prickles that grab and tear your cloaks. Incessant flies and gnats taunt every step of the way, crawling under your leggings and biting for blood at any bare skin, the backs of hands, the back of your neck. The only real beauty of this wild landscape, apart from the sweeping hills and vales, are the ghostly white-trunked snow gums, twisted into contortions of human-like pain. Their smooth bark shines in the bright sun as the cold wind blasts their leaves in clapping celebration. So that is what I wrote when I went to the snowy mountains in Australia. In summer. There's no snow in the snowy mountains in summer. They should be called the mountains. This blog came to my mind when I thought about living real life in order to make our gaming better. The experience of these places has only ever served to improve my imaginative landscape, to improve my ability to describe scenes, to increase the different number of places that I could describe, the number of different places I could put my characters, and to improve my game, which is just about the only real value of going outside your door, is in order to maybe glean something that might improve one's experience at the gaming table. Not really, but that's what this series of blogs is about living real life in order to improve our game. The first one of these blogs is about going into the environment. So I've made a habit of, everywhere I go into a different environment, every time I go into a different environment, opening my eyes, breathing the air, feeling the sensations, feeling how the air moves around me, feeling what the sun feels like, looking at the colour of the sky, the colour of the ground, what flora, what fauna there is there, and writing it down. Getting in the habit of describing for about a minute or so what it's like, so that then I can place my players in that environment when I wish to. That was the Snowy Mountains of Australia, a place where it's freezing but the sun shines crystal clear, a place where there are millions of bugs and you wouldn't necessarily expect there to be. Bugs like that are something you would automatically forget when you're describing a scene. Oh, you walk through the forest and you meet a werewolf and that's about it. But if you can describe what the character's armour will feel like under their cloaks, against their skin, whether there's sweat building up on the backs of their necks, whether their lips are drying out, whether the brightness of the light makes them blink or it's hard to see, then it will increase the immersion for the players and improve our game! So, other places I've been. The desert in Australia. The desert in Australia isn't like that sort of typical Saharan sweeping, rolling plains of only sand. Deserts in Australia are flat, hard, rocky, stony places with life clinging onto the very edge of existence. Deserts are places in Australia with lizards and things that want to bite you and kill you. Places where you can dig up from the ground potato sort of tuber things, which then you can strain in a river or in water to purify, and you can eat them. You can, if you know the right place to dig, you can dig about 2 feet under the soil and find some water which you can suck into your mouth. Deserts in Australia are places of unbelievable openness and space where at night time the temperature plunges and you can see stars on the horizon, right on the horizon, because there's no city to light up the edge of the sky. You can see stars all the way over the top and all the way down to the other horizon. Deserts are places where you just have to go on and on and on and on. There are mirages in the desert which you get from Saharan things where the whole horizon ends up this blurred sort of black line of confusion and shimmering illusion of water. in the distance. Deserts are also a place of flooding rains, and there's that incredible event that happens in Australia where floods come and they'll spread water over the entire land, and then only a week later the entire place will burst into green life, completely transforming the environment, while every plant grabs the opportunity for water to reproduce, to get its seeds back into the soil ready to reproduce next time there's a flood. There's dust in the desert. Dust that gets absolutely everywhere, caked all over you. If you've ever driven through the desert, it gets into every hole in a car, along the back shelf of the boot, everywhere, in your eyes, and so your eyes crunch when you close them at night. Your lips dry out and crack in the desert from the incessant dry wind, and all these things should be described to the players if they're in the desert. Rainforests, kind of a bit of contrast. Rainforests that I've been to are places which are cool. You can step out from the temperate forest just outside them and step into a rainforest, and the temperature drops to a beautiful, cool medium. They're humid. Their light dapples through the leaves in sort of soft patterns. The sound in a rainforest is muted. There are leeches in a rainforest galore, and generally when you go into a rainforest in Australia, a leech will suck onto you and you have to flick it off. You'll walk past a bush of leaves, and especially if you're the last person to be coming along, there'll be leeches all sort of hanging out ready to sort of try and grab onto you. Leeches are wonderful for creating a sense of in the players, and of course you can't tell the players that the characters feel nervous. You need to just describe the environment, and that sort of general natural reaction of ickiness to leeches and bugs will sort of fill the room and fill the players' minds. Rainforests are places of steep hills with leaf litter this thick, which makes the hills really, really slippery, and you slide down through them and you get drenched, and because there's no real heat, no real sun, you find it very difficult to dry out. Rainforests are a place where you get a tree falling in the rainforest and you'll get an open patch of bright sunlight beaming all the way down to the floor of the rainforest, where then every single plant will grab that opportunity in an absolute rush and hurry to burst out and reproduce as quickly as possible, and in fact ultimately to grow up into that space and to fill that opportunity for space in the canopy. All these things should be described, and if you've gone to a rainforest, then you just might know that. And I have, and I do, and I'm going to try and remember more and more at the table to describe these places. So we've got rainforests, we've got deserts, we've got snowy mountains. I guess the only other things, and one other thing that on travelling in different environments that's occurred to me is that incredible sensation of arriving somewhere, of coming up, say over sand dunes. Over a long desert you come up over sand dunes and suddenly you emerge over and you see the sea. Your senses are assaulted by the sound of the sea, the roar of the sea after the sort of silence and space and emptiness of the desert. And your nostrils are assaulted with the sense of salt, and lovely, not. the smell of the sea spray and the water, of course, in absolute abundance and all completely undrinkable. Also that sense of coming up over a hill and seeing the city in the distance, whether that be home or some foreign place which fills your heart with interest, excitement or foreboding. Whether either you see the city all in one go and it suddenly emerges as your head pokes up over the rise, or maybe you see off in the very distance on the horizon twinkling lights of the city, and that's quite a distinct sensation that hopefully all your players have had, and you can call upon those experiences at the table. Of course, if none of us have ever left our homes, because we're also nerdy and unfit, then we won't have that repertoire of experiences to draw upon. One more, because you can't talk about adventure, fantasy, role-playing without talking about dungeons. The caves I've been in have been very rough on the floor. They have been very uneven. They rise and fall. The walls are not hewn into nice sort of brick effect or wood panelling, but jagged and sharp and sort of intrude into the space where you want to put your head and you want to walk. One minute you're walking sort of through a sort of a diagonal squeeze and you feel like the rocks are going to shift and crush you to death. The next moment you will emerge into this massive cavernous space which fills you with awe and wonder. Hopefully when you go into a cave, the caving guide or whoever is leading you gives you an opportunity to turn off all the lights, and you discover just how incredibly, absolutely, unapologetically black it is in the cave, and just how at mercy we are, us humans, of the reliability of lamps and torches. And in fact, how little they reach out into space to actually fill a cave with light. Some caves, if there's been water in them, are filled with incredible limestone formations. Beautiful, shimmering, translucent sheets of bacon rind-like stone. Flowstone, which is like sort of rippling, cellulite-y thighs. Rivers down the bottom of a 20-foot drop, which are beautiful, completely crystal greeny blue with lime scale forming sort of on the surface. Access to the outside world by roots which have come down from the trees above and cracking by sheer force of persistence and time the stone, and then water dribbles off the end of the roots. All these things you can get in caves if you visit them. Caves and dungeons aren't always 10-foot perfect gelatinous cube corridors. So yeah, I think that's about all I was thinking of. I did make this whole video all just before, and then I ran out of tape halfway through and didn't realise, and talked for about 5 minutes without realising that. So, go out. This is what I've learnt. Go out and experience the environment, and when you're there, open your eyes, look around, write it down. Sniff the air and see what you smell and write it down. Feel what your skin feels like in the environment. Feel what the ground feels like underneath your boots. Even better, take your boots off and walk with your bare feet. And don't get bitten by a deadly spider or a snake in Australia. And write it down. And next time you're at the gaming table, or in fact planning, pick up one of these descriptive passages and see if you can describe the environment in all 5 senses for more than 20 seconds. More than 10 seconds, in fact. So often at the gaming table I say, oh, you go along this road and stuff, and then like, oh, what's the next encounter? Whereas if you can create the environment entirely, you can immerse the players much more, which then gives the characters much more depth and feeling of reality, and then it makes the threats seem more threatening, and all those things get better and better and better. And I'm now starting to ramble, so I shall stop. We are the Dice Stormers, and you should consider yourself stormed. I think that's good. Bye. See you next time. I've got a lot more of these with some really interesting thoughts.